How do I get that to not auto-lock? I want it to stay on me. Is that it? I think it is. I think we're good. Oh, no, we're not good. Because even though this mic could be better, it is better than nothing. Okay. Cool. Hello. It's funny, I'm still current. Okay. So, slight change of plan. The camera decided it was time for a nap. Otherwise known as me forgetting to, well, not forgetting, just not being put it on charge. Seeing as it's been 3 or so weeks since I last did it. But yeah, we've got a lovely iPad, even though it's cracked. But yeah, this is just as good. You know, it's a good test for the iPad. You know, it's a proof that, you know, if this is a good video, it's down to me and not the technology. Okay. Right. So today is Saturday the 29th of May. It's been 2 weeks since I raced at Herefordshire. And again, same reason that my camera ran out of battery. The reason that I'm doing it 2 weeks later is because of stuff. It was funny. It was so it happened on the Saturday. I got back here at like 8 o'clock probably. Yeah, 8 p.m. And then Sunday I just wanted to relax. And then all of a sudden we got to Wednesday last week. And then we got to last weekend, and then we got to mid this week, and then I had Friday off, and then so I was going to do it yesterday, and then But luckily I've been taking notes over the last few weeks, so I haven't actually forgotten what happened. So that's the point of these diaries. It's to recap what happened at the race, the mistakes I made, the mistakes that others made that cost me. Because that did happen. Let's try and get that out shot. We can keep it in shot, but we can camouflage it. There you go. You can't see now, can you? Sorry, that was one of them unnecessary swears. Okay. There we go. Perfect. All right, guys. Let's you know what? Let's start the video, shall we? I think you guys have suffered enough of my small talk or just everyday life struggles. I think now we're at the point where we can start this video. So, coming into this second round, one of the things I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do last time was to do a session at the track prior to the event. Get some laps under my belt and just, you know, feel ready for the race weekend. So 2 weeks before the round, I went to Hereford to get some laps under me, but I wasn't going to race alone as I was able to get my uncle to join me. He only lives around the corner-ish, but the main reason he joined was because he's a karter too. Without doubt, more of one than me. I'd never raced with him before, and I'd only seen him race once last year during an endurance round at Lando. But he was a serious contact to have. Getting back to Hereford, my uncle had raced there before, but not for a few years, while I'd never been at the track. But can I just say, what a track. There's a circuit near St Erth in Cornwall called Coast to Coast. It's our go-to one when down on holiday. It's an amazing track, and the karts are so optimised for it that even though you definitely aren't going the quickest you could, you don't feel that you need any more power underneath you. This track instantly gave me that same connection, and I loved it for that. Of the 3 sessions we did, I beat him in the second session. And then, so the first session, we were both getting into it and all that kind of stuff. He beat me, he smashed me. But the second session, I beat him. And the third session, he had a really strong session. I had a really messy session. But even looking past all that, the great thing was I was getting good lap times under my belt for the round 2. It was a good insight into what I can expect coming into it. As long as it's dry conditions, I felt really well prepped. And I enjoyed karting without the weight, because obviously at the first round, the SRK, I was in the weighted amateur class, meaning that I was amateur, but also my weight had to be a minimum of 80 kilograms. So me as I am, I'm 63, so I needed to have an additional 17 kilograms of weight put on me. My kit was about 2 anyway, so I wore a weighted vest of 15 kilograms. So it was nice this time around to not have to wear that. And I enjoyed it so much that I actually made the decision at the end. After the second I definitely made it after the second session. I said to Mum, you know what? I'm going in the open class. At least for this year in this championship, I'm going to focus on racing, getting up to speed, and just learning these new tracks. And then maybe next year we'll add the weight back in. But I'm very guilty of trying to do everything at once, and I'd rather just start seeing some results. And so I made the decision, and I contacted the organisers. They were great about it. They said I can swap back over at any time. But so from this round, from round 2 onwards, I'm in the open class, meaning that everyone in the open class, we don't have to weigh up to a minimum weight, but we still race in the same heats as everyone else. It was a very good decision. I had a lot more fun than I would have if I was weighted. So the track is obviously Herefordshire. Not to get into too much detail, but I'm not local to Herefordshire. I'm based in Reading. So I had the choice of, do I drive to the track or do I stay the night? With Castle Coombe I drove, and it was very nice. Good decision. Herefordshire, I decided to stay the night with my uncle, because he's literally like 20 minutes from there. So we had a good evening. We watched a racing film, try to get into the mood. He had some podcasts that he'd sent on the week leading up to that, to again just try and get me in the mood, try and pick up certain things that I just wasn't aware of beforehand. And actually it was really good, because about a week or so before it, the weather looked like it was going to be wet, but it looked like it was only going to be damp and cloudy. But as we got closer and closer to the event, it started to look a lot more wet. So these podcasts that he was sending me, and actually there's this book. There was a few bits of that I read on the Saturday morning before I raced, which did stick with me during the event. So that was cool, because I'm not a reader, but being able to get some information from that book like that, about lines and about braking, and then being able to actually not only just read it, but take the lesson and then be able to put it into motion just like that is really good. So I'll be reading a lot more of that book going forward. But yeah, so Saturday morning, it was raining. When we got to the track, there was people doing practice, and you could see just how wet it was. I wore a wetsuit over my overalls. I don't have one, but my uncle had one. It was the right decision to wear it, because there was another guy who didn't, and he was drenched by the end of the first corner. Let alone the next 3 hours or so of racing. But yeah, so I wore his overalls, which were great. And I wasn't in that initial practice because that was a paid extra practice. But because of the amount of people we had, and I think we were slightly running behind schedule, they added the official practice onto the start of your first heat. So I didn't get my uncle's insight until after the end of the first heat. So I had to go for the practice, which was about 5 minutes. But yeah, so I started off pretty safe while I was going out, and it felt good, even though it was absolutely it down. It felt good, a lot better than it did 8 years ago at Castle Combe, because this was my first time racing in the wet since then. There was a lot of wheel spinning, so there was too much throttle. The key to the wet that I've learned is you pump the throttle, and you try and pinch the brake to throw the back end out, because the reason you can't turn around corners is a combination of understeer and obviously just the lack of grip. So if you pinch the back end and swing it out, that's one way to turn, because otherwise it just won't. But yeah, so the practice was what it was. It was fine. I didn't spin out, which was great. It was just getting used to what the line was, because I was speaking to one of the organisers before I went out for my practice, because I was just trying to get a feel of what was what, and he said that it's the dry line. Stick to the dry line that you would if it was dry, but just be careful on braking. And there's a bit coming over the bridge. The difference with that is you're not easing off the throttle, you're just doing a little pinchy brake. So yeah, I just took it easy for that practice, and then the first heat I started 4th and I stayed 4th up until the last few laps, where I then got swamped and ended up finishing 9th. But having said that, it was great. I wanted to get that first heat underneath me, and see what my uncle saw, see what things I can work on going into the second heat. I wanted to make sure it was a heat that I could build off of, rather than going into the next heat and then looking for that to be my foundation. I wanted this to be strong enough that we can build off it, and it was, which was great. Because then, coming out of that first heat, one of the biggest observations that my uncle made was that I was going deep into the first corner. I say first because there are 2 grids on this track. We're using the grid that takes us straight under the bridge. However, there is another grid on the main straight that also runs parallel with the pits. This is the more traditional starting place, and so it's a little confusing why we're starting on the other one. Maybe they've had a lot of incidents at the first corner and they're starting to rethink it. Anyway, with the starting point where it is for us, this corner is in fact turn 6. That corner, I always was going in deep. And that's just because I couldn't turn the cart. So what I was saying before about braking, I'm saying that in hindsight. I didn't know it at the time. but I just wasn't braking hard enough. And so it was in that second heat where I started going further on the brake pedal and finding this little pinch point where the back end will literally come. The second heat was actually really messy, but it was a good heat to have, because the whole heat I was basically just trying out the brake, learning how far I can go for certain corners, learning how to catch it if it goes too much, learning how to deal with it if I've not done enough, just other ways I can get around it, like I was saying about pumping the throttle. But yeah, so that second heat I started 5th and I finished 9th. That wasn't like the first heat where I just got swamped right at the end. It was a case of me running wide in certain corners, or coming or losing too much time because I braked too much. That session was messy, but it was a great session, because coming out of it, by the end of that session, I got a kind of feel of where I can be braking. And then the third heat, so I started 11th. The first lap, I played it safe. I stayed behind everyone. I wanted to get a feel for who was in front of me, if they were going to make any twitches here and there, if any of them were chaotic. And then at the start of the second lap, I made a move and got past someone. And then coming along the main straight, they got a run on me. But then, so they were on the right hand side of me, on the outside, and they came across coming into that long corner at the front, but they just didn't leave me enough room. So they clipped me into the barrier slightly. It put them offline, so I then got the run on them round that first bend. But while this is happening, further up the road, some other guys were having their own incident, and I got caught up in the byproduct of that. So so literally I came up onto the back of someone else, but just as at that moment they were about to spin out, because they were locking their brakes because someone in front of them had spun out. And so by the time by the time the marshal came over and got me out there, I was stone dead last. I was lapped. The race was over. When I got out the Kart, one of the first things my uncle said was that where you went onto the grass, that wasn't your fault. Literally, you came onto him just as he started to spin. So naturally, because of where you are, because I was also on the inside of him, you couldn't have gone left. The natural instinct was to go right. You got stuck. These things happen. Which I was like, yeah, fine, but still annoying and frustrating. But because of it, that happened like only a few laps into the race. So I was able to have the remainder of it just doing hot laps, and that was really good, because especially after learning about the brake pedal and heat. I'm laughing because, and hopefully one day someone will watch this and take something from it, but be open that you're not doing something right. I would have thought that I was using the brake pedal right in wet conditions, but I wasn't. I wasn't using the brake pedal enough, and it's relearning how to use it. How I relearned it in that second heat. It was because of it that in that third heat I was putting in some really good lap times. And so if I'd known that going into this weekend, I could have had a very different weekend. Because coming into this weekend, I was myself. I didn't want to do a wet race. I didn't want to do wet laps because I was worried about how I would perform. But now I'm not worried. Now I actually want to do it more because I want to refine it. If you want to be a racer, if you want to get into racing, you've got to be at least comfortable. You don't have to be quick because different people have different strengths, but you've got to be comfortable racing in whatever condition, because there's always an opportunity in a race. Just like with me going onto the grass, that was one of them racing incidents where I was just unlucky. But who's to say that I'm chasing someone down in the wet and they have that same incident? you've always got to attack each opportunity. It was a really good weekend for getting past my fears of the wet and racing in the wet. I don't really know how they figured it out, but my starting position for the final was 5th in the open final, so it was the first final, and I was starting 5th. By this point, the track was 95% dry. There was a little break between heats and the final, so they could fuel up the karts and just go over how the finals would work. Yeah, I had a really good final. I was right on the back of the top 4 from the off. But at the start of the second lap, just coming under the bridge, I hit the one damp patch remaining on the track, and it spun me out. But I was able to catch it just as I was spinning, so I didn't go into the wall. But 2 guys managed to snuck past me. So I started 5th. I was 5th going into the spin. I was 7th coming out of it. But as it happened on the second lap of 10, I believe, I still had loads of time to get back past those guys. And I did. I smashed it. I did hot lap after hot lap after hot lap. I got past those 2 pretty easily and was back onto 4th place coming into the latter part of the race. This time I actually used the little damp patch on the bridge to my advantage, because I took a different line where I'd cut back and just missed that damp patch completely out, so I was able to take it quick. And yeah, got past him. I was 4th in the end. If I had a few more laps, I keep saying it, I could have, should have, would have got 3rd, because the top 3 hadn't have ran off by that point. But if I hadn't spun, then definitely 3rd was on the cards. A bit of silverware. The amount of I've talked over the years to my mates about karting and all that stuff, but I've never got silverware in karting. I've never got a trophy, and I so nearly did. And I would have, pace alone, I was the 2nd quickest car on track, but I would have got it if I'd just been a bit more, I don't know what the word is, but there was one damp patch on the track, and as far as I know, I was the only one to get caught out by it. But there was one damp patch on the track, and as far as I know, I was the only one on the track, and as far as I know, I was the only one. But there was one damp patch on the track, and as far as I know, I was the only one to get caught out by it. But there was one damp patch on the track, and as far as I know, I was the only one. But yeah, so in the end I finished the final in 4th, which is always good. It's always good to finish a race, either the position you start or anything above it. And I had a really competitive race, so that was good. Is there anything else to say, really? No, I had a good weekend. I'm glad that I'm in a different class. It means that I'm going to get more out of this season. Yeah, I can focus on learning these new tracks. The next race isn't for 2 months, and the next one is at Wilton Mill. So it will definitely it's definitely another track that I'm going to look to go up there prior to the race, so that I can just get a bit of an insight into what I can expect. Yeah. Round 2 was good. I had good fun. Yeah. At the moment, I'm watching the qualifying for the Extreme E. So I've just watched the first qualifying session of that, Hamilton's team, quickest. Yeah. Who knows? One day we might be in extremely. Right. Saturday the 29th of May. I don't know when this will be uploaded, but yeah. This whole YouTube thing at the moment, so I'm recording videos like this one now, and I'm yet to release any of them. In fact, as I speak to you now, we are editing that first racing video. Obviously I'm not going to be editing it while I talk to you. It depends how bored I get. But hopefully it doesn't sound too bad. Let's have a quick drink break. See you when I see you. And I'll make sure I charge my camera for next time and maybe get a better mic than this. Right, toodles!